We are beginning the meeting shortly. We will be conducting tonight's meeting in person as well as in virtual setting via Zoom. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting tonight on Wave Channel 18 and online through the city's YouTube channel. If you would like to participate in live public comment via the Zoom platform, please refer to the agenda for instructions. Chair Hutchinson will begin the meeting momentarily.
Thank you. I would like to call the March 20th, 2024 City of Lincoln Regular Planning Commission meeting to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Eklund?
Here.
Commissioner Eric Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson?
Here.
He is via Zoom. Commissioner McKinney?
Here.
Commissioner Reedy?
Here.
Vice Chairman Gilbert?
Here.
And Chair Hutchison.
Here. And our next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Reedy, will you lead us, please, in the pledge?
Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our next item of business is if there are any agenda modifications. Do we have any agenda modifications this evening?
Chair Hutchinson, staff requests that we move item 10A, which is general business item, titled PC Workshop Bicycle Infrastructure Update and Discussion, after disclosure of ex parte communications and before consent, if that is okay.
Do I have anyone opposed to that on our committee?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
this is Jerry Johnson. I'm wondering, since we didn't have any really material with regard to the bicycle bicycle trail item, that I'm wondering if we might put it off until next month, where we have some more background that would help us prepare for that item. We didn't get for example, we don't have an existing route map or any updates or anything on that yet, and maybe we can give staff a little bit more time to prepare.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
I think that's a decision that the commission shouldn't make. We'll let staff make that decision when we hear the agenda item and can decide whether we have enough to take action tonight. I hate to always put off action. If we can do it tonight, if we're not able to, we'll make that decision when we hear the staff report. So that is the best way to handle an item.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gilbert. As I read the agenda, I believed that this would be a discussion point only. And so I believe that staff is prepared to provide us discussion points this evening. Am I correct?
Yeah, Mel Pavlinas. Yes, we have information tonight to present. Definitely, while I understand having advanced information will be good, we are ready to present tonight unless the commission decides otherwise.
Well, I can certainly appreciate Commissioner Johnson's comments. I'd like to hear your comments, and then we can make the decision whether or not we would take any action this evening or put it off until next month, if my colleagues will agree with that.
That's acceptable as far as I'm concerned.
Pardon me?
That's acceptable as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. All right, our next item on the agenda is informational items from staff. Does staff have any information for us besides the discussion on the bicycle issue?
Staff doesn't have anything to present.
Thank you.
I apologize, Chair Hutchinson. The next agenda item would be public
Oh,
comment.
thank you, thank you. Sorry, y'all, I'm catching on to this. Our next item is public comments on non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Citizens may address the Planning Commission on any item on the agenda when the item is considered. Citizens wishing to speak may request to speak by raising your hand or requested to do this. This is an opportunity to speak on non-agenda items. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Secretary, do we have any hands raised or anyone in chambers that wishes to speak on non-agenda items?
I did not receive any comment cards. I do not see any hands raised in the room, nor do I see any hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you. We will close that part of the agenda then. Our next order, of course, we've already discussed, the staff does not have informational items. Now, disclosure of ex parte communication. And I will start with Commissioner Eklund.
I have none.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, I have 2 related to item 9A. A couple concerned citizens reached out to me, and I engaged in some discussions with them, Neil Hinson and Eric Kurland.
Thank you. Commissioner Jerry Johnson?
No, I had no such conversations.
Thank you. Commissioner John Reedy?
None.
Commissioner McKinney?
None?
And Vice Chair Gilbert?
I have none.
Thank you. And I have none.
I'm sorry, Chair Hutchinson, I forgot, I also spoke with Neil Henson as well regarding 9A.
Thank you.
Concerns.
Our next order of business on the agenda is our consent item. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine business and will be
I
enacted.
apologize, Chair Hutchinson. We
Oh,
moved,
we moved, I'm so
10A.
sorry.
That is
Yes,
okay.
Yes, yes.
yeah, we moved 10A general business item.
Correct, that's before consent. Thank you, I apologize. And so we're looking forward to hearing from staff.
There we go. Hi, my name is Roland Neufeld. I am a senior engineer for the City of Lincoln in the Capital Improvements Division. And I have been asked to come here tonight to discuss the process the city goes through for city-funded bicycle infrastructure projects. I've got a little presentation here. My plan was to talk about it from the city CIP perspective for a few minutes, go through this presentation, and then I was going to hand it off to Mel, who is going to talk about. Yeah, go ahead. The PowerPoint up on your screen there?
No.
There we go. Okay, good. All right. So then after I'm done speaking for a few minutes, I was going to hand it off to Mel, and he was going to talk about bicycle projects as they relate to private development. You're welcome. So a brief outline of what I'm going to talk about tonight. I'll start with talking about the city's current bicycle transportation plan. Then I'll talk about our capital improvement projects. And then I want to talk about one trail project example, the Moore Road Trail, just to kind of give you a sense of some of the hurdles that we have to go through in these projects. And this outline really is also an outline of what a bicycle project needs to go through. That it starts with a bicycle transportation plan, it comes out of that, then if it gets funding, it goes into the CIP, and then from there, it can move on to design and construction.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Do your best not to use acronyms. We know what CIP is.
Understood.
We
Thank
have
you.
people in the audience, so
Thank you.
let's let them be fully informed of what we're doing.
I appreciate that. When I said CIP, what I was referring to are the capital improvement program.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so a brief background on the bicycle transportation plan. Bicycle transportation plan is a city-approved document that went to city council for their blessing that kind of outlines the existing bicycle system that the city has. It also outlines the future planning of that bicycle system. So our original bicycle transportation plan was from 2012. It was updated most recently in 2018, and we have funding to update it again next fiscal year, 24-25. So the 2018 update, the city hired a transportation engineering consultant to put that update together. And they started by evaluating the existing conditions in the city. They looked at things like bicycle connectivity, accident history with bicycles, levels of stress. So that could be roadways that are multi-lane with fast speed limits create higher stress for cyclists. They also looked at things like barriers and gaps. So Auburn Ravine would be an example of a barrier, Highway 65, another barrier. And then the consultant hosted 2 public workshops where they asked for residential feedback on the bicycle system, and also had an online tool where they asked for feedback as well. And what they were trying to do is gather just information from the public on projects that the public wanted, issues that the public had with the existing system, and stuff that they wanted to see done in the future. So with all that background information and the residential input, the consultant then put together a list of 50 projects. And they took those 50 projects and they whittled it down to a top 10 list using cost-benefit ratio, number of public input, just trying to put together a package of projects that made the most sense for our community. So in 2018, the bicycle transportation plan was adopted, and since then, the city has completed 5 out of the 10 projects that were listed in the plan. And there is a 6th project that is currently underway that I'll talk about at the end of this presentation, that Moore Road project. So a little bit about the capital improvement program as it relates to bicycles. So there's really 3 main funding sources that would go towards funding bicycle infrastructure. One is streets funds, which are funds that the city generates primarily from gas tax as well as sales tax revenue. And it's it fluctuates year to year depending on those tax generation. But the issue with the streets funds is that's how the city pays for all of our roadway maintenance, for all our road resurfacing, our bridge maintenance, our storm drain infrastructure, sidewalks, all that stuff. So bicycle projects are really competing for the same funds that our streets are. Another funding source are grant funds, and the city has been successful in several opportunities in getting grant funding for bicycle projects. We've also been unsuccessful several times. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. And then the last source of funds that we get is from the Placer County Transportation and Planning Agency. We get about $45,000 from them annually, and that money must be spent on either bicycle or pedestrian infrastructure. And that has been our primary use of funds for those top 5 projects that I showed. 4 of those projects were funded out of that Placer County Transportation funding of $45,000, which does not go a long way, as you can imagine. So those projects really were looking at an existing street and putting down striping and signage for new bike lanes on an existing street. That money isn't going to go towards creating a new trail or widening a street that needs it for a new bicycle lane. So we've been limited there. All right, a little bit about the capital improvement project process. So the projects will come out of the primary route is for the projects to come out of that bicycle transportation plan, right? And they become part of a wish list for the engineering department for the upcoming fiscal year. And then those projects are ranked, and then funds are allocated by finance. So if like the street funds will go into all the different projects that need to be funded by streets, and then those projects will get re-ranked. And again, the bicycle projects are competing against streets. going to spend $300,000 on a bicycle project, that's $300,000 that's not going towards the street fund. So it's a difficulty there. And then once those final projects are selected, they'll go to city council for approval. All right, my last slide. I just wanted to talk about one project, which is the Moore Road Class 1 Trail project that we are currently in design on. This project did come out of the bicycle transportation plan, and it has been a project that the community has really gotten behind and asked for a long period of time. We went after grant funding for this project on 2 different instances. We hired top-notch engineering firms to put together pretty polished applications, and we were denied funding on both of those cases because this project was not deemed competitive enough in the local region. So a couple years ago, we were able to get local funds to fund this project though. So we got $1.2 million to install this small section of trail. It's about 1,000 feet long. But what this trail is gonna do, so as most of you probably know, Highway 65 used to run through downtown on Lincoln Boulevard, right? And then a number of years ago, Caltrans relocated it so that we don't have everybody driving through our downtown with a 65 bypass, which was great. But the one downside to the bypass was that it bisected an existing road, Moore Road out there. So Moore Road now dead ends at Highway 65 on either side, does not connect through. So the community has been asking for us to reconnect that with the trail. Right now, 2 neighborhoods are totally disconnected, and the Sorrento neighborhood is disconnected from the rest of town. So that was the impetus for this project. As I mentioned, we got it out of it became a top 10 project in the bicycle transportation plan. We got the funding for it. $1.2 million is a lot for 1,000 feet though. So some of the reasons why this project is so expensive, it's within the Caltrans right of way. So we have to get encroachment permits from them. We have to get an easement from them. We have to work with Caltrans, which is a slow and tedious process. It's adjacent to Auburn Ravine, so it's in the floodplain. That adds money to it. It's in the open space, so there's environmental permitting that needs to take place, so that adds money to it. So the bottom line is it's a very important project. The community is behind it, staff is behind it, and it's great that we got funding for it, but it's rare when we're able to get a project like this to move forward. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Mel.
Chair Hutchison, I apologize. Jerry Johnson's hand is raised on Zoom. I'm not sure if you are opening up to where commissioners can speak.
I'd like to wait until we've heard Mel's comments, and then we will open it up to comments from the commission and then from the audience.
Thank you.
Oops. And
Acknowledge.
Yes.
Mel Pavlinas, planning manager. So what we have before you here is a the map of the city of Lincoln. In focus are 2 villages in that's been adopted in the city of Lincoln. One being Village 7, right here, and one being Village 1. So these are adopted specific plans consisting of Village 1 about 5,300 residential units, and Village 1 is about 3,000, more or less 4,000 units total. So what basically this this shows is that kind of the big picture. And while what Roland's involved with is important, what you get to see mostly is basically development plans and projects, right? Because that's where within each plan area, there's a network of trails, multi-use trails, pedestrian, walk paths, pathways, open space, and parks. And those are all planned as part of each development. And that's the thing that you see mostly as opposed to the CIP. And I'm going to show you some more specific PDFs here of each plan. That way you'll see kind of the network of planned amenities in each development. Just wanted to kind of show you the big picture, the city, and then in between, of course, are the network of trails, pathways, and pedestrians within the city. I'm going to switch to a different. um, This one right here. Oop. Okay, good. This one is Village One. So if you, this is the northwest, northeast corner side of the city. Again, this is the land use map of Village One. This shows all many colors, mostly yellows and in greens, and indicating the types of land uses as adopted in each specific plan. Just for orientation, McBean Park Drive or State Highway 93 is right here. And then Oak Tree Lane is this road that goes north to south. Downtown Lincoln is to the west of McBean Park Drive. Shown here is one of the exhibits within the specific plan for Village One. Again, this shows the blue is basically off-site bike lane and NEVs. Within the residential area, we have a network of bike paths, walking paths, and other amenities that connects within the adopted plan. Why this is critical is because eventually those connections, at least the main connection, will connect back into the city, connecting to the CIP projects that existing or future projects that will be built by the city. So again, within the development plan, you will see there'll be its own set of network of pedestrian and multi-trails that connects eventually into the city. Separate funding through the development to the finance plan adopted within the specific plan. It has separate timing, of course. And of course, what happens is that when each tentative map that goes into fruition, that's when if there's trails, there's sidewalks and other amenities that are adjacent to those subdivisions, when those go through the process, that's when you'll see these amenities come through you. And I want to kind of paint that picture. That way you see the whole picture, not just the CIP projects, but also how each development that gets annexed into and built within the city, new developments are going to be part of the overall network within the city. I'll show you another one here as an example. This is Village 7. This is the currently adopted plan for the area. Again, Ferrari Ranch Road is right here. Moore Road is on the south side over here. Oh, north, sorry, I lost track there. To the north, Highway 65 over here. Again, it's a new development that's ongoing currently. And actually, it'll be another item for tonight, for your consideration tonight. But this is the adopted plan as it exists. Again, many amenities showing the green areas, the parks and trails and sidewalks within this plan area. And this is the pedestrian bikeway system. Again, similarly, more detailed according to this plan, showing the network of trails and pathways that's currently adopted within this plan area. Again, the goal is to build these as each development comes in, it'll get funded and developed, and then and with the goal in mind of connecting to this other network outside of these plan areas. So that's a big picture of what would happen eventually when these villages comes into play. It'll take a lot longer time to do it, but separately, there's a CIP project that will effectuate the other planned amenities within the city. But the overall goal is to have these network of connectivity within the city. That's all that I have for my part of the
Mel,
presentation.
can I paraphrase just to make sure that everybody understands? I think what you're trying to say is that a lot of the reasons why the connectivity is missing is these missing links haven't been developed. So once those projects around our town have been developed, along comes with those amenities such as bike trails that connect the missing links together, right?
You're right.
Similarly, I had a question for engineering about a month ago in 12 Bridges where some residents were wondering, when can Bella Breeze connect to the Leatherbees and Omakase Retail Center by bicycle safely so that they don't have to go on the street? It doesn't connect. On Joyner, there's a missing part. And the answer was, to your point, when the development on the corner of Joyner and 12 Bridges is then developed, that sidewalk will be put in place and everything will be connected and everybody can get there. Otherwise, the roundabout way is to go through a capital improvement project, and it competes then, which can be done, competes with the other projects from that fund.
You're right.
Chair Hutchinson, Jerry Johnson's hand is raised on
Yes.
Zoom.
Thank you.
I had a similar comment or question. I'm assuming that we have some kind of a master plan for biking, which would show where connections are made, at least on waterways through the community, and hopefully on major arterials leading into and out of the city. But I noticed on Virginiatown / 12th Street, when the recent housing development off from on the north side of 12th Street was widened and resurfaced and restriped, the developer neglected to put in a bicycle lane on that very important passageway from Lincoln to parts east, such as Auburn and so forth. Where was, what happened there? Why was that missed?
I can talk about what we want to do.
I'm not sure if that part of the town is part of the master plan community. So along Virginia Town Road, is that right? And north?
Well, I'm saying within the city limits.
Okay. And again, that could be something that's part of a CIP project. I'm not sure if
No, I think would be paid for and done by the developer or his contractor.
If I may, Mel, this is SP, Senior Engineer SP Pan, Commissioner Jerry Johnson, good question. I just want to make sure that we understand that we can only condition a development. Basically, there's a nexus-based conditioning. So the offsite that we cannot ask a developer to kind of extend improvements beyond their boundaries unless it's tied to some kind of environmental impact. So
I understand that. I'm only
Yeah.
talking about the bike path adjacent to that property.
along
why-
is that along Virginia Town? Sorry.
Yes.
We have to review the conditions to, at this point, unless Lindy has more information. I was not involved, but we can always
I could-
follow through with you. Yeah.
If I could interject, as I understand it, I feel though there's an echo. This presentation is for information only. You are not expecting a decision or a recommendation from the commission tonight, is that correct?
Yes.
Then I would like to hear from my colleagues and their questions, but I'd also like to think that Commissioner Johnson's question probably is going to take some more detail and explanation. I know that several years ago I attended a brainstorming session with the then city manager, and they talked about the projects and all the bicycle connectivities and so forth, and it was very, very well done, but it was many years ago. And the people who were handling that are no longer with the city. So I think that some of this information probably needs to be brought back to us after you've looked at context. That would be my recommendation, except to hear from any of my colleagues Yes, Vice Chair Gilbert, do you have a question or a comment?
Chairman, well, I have some comments, and the first one is, I questioned this item on the agenda in as much as I didn't quite understand what we were going to do tonight and if there was any action. So I think Jerry's, Commissioner Jerry Johnson had a good point. And I'd like to extend that to understand tonight, were we here just to get some information? Or do you want input from us? Because I have several comments I'd like to make. So what is it that we're here for on this item?
If you have more comments, we'll welcome those tonight, and then we can come back to you at a later time to get more responses to your comments or questions.
Okay, so there wasn't any decision to make tonight.
You're right.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Well, the first thing I'd like to ask you about is, as you know, we're the only, or we were the first community in the United States of America to put together an NEV program. It was authorized by our state government and several other cities in California, and I think some outside of California have adopted the pilot which we put together. A lot of work by a lot of people on staff and whatever. So then the question comes, we're spending this money to create a way for bicycles to get from one point to another point. Should NEVs be included in that as part of moving vehicles? Because NEVs help take people out of cars.
And just to answer your question, in those, it's not easily discernible because they're kind of small print, but the planned pathways within each specific plan identifies an NEV as well. I can't speak for the CIP. I'm assuming that those amenities includes an area for NEVs, but I know for a fact that the planned street and pathways within each specific plan has an NEV plan with it.
So the connectivity would include the NEV pathway as well.
Within those two examples that I presented tonight.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question. When we adopted our NEV plan, I was not on the planning commission or the city. I was on the board of directors of Lincoln Hills. And of course, we were very interested in that because that's a golf cart community. And as you know, we've extended the golf cart plan to use some of the NEV parts of the city, which has allowed people from that community to come downtown and shop in their golf cart or their NEV. So when I look at this, question becomes, we originally were doing a bike path, a bike lane, an NEV lane, and a vehicle lane. We built a bridge, and we put those three in there. Because of the restrictions on NEVs, speed limits, et cetera, they cannot always be in the car lane. It's 35 miles an hour. They must be in a place where the zone is 35 or less. So my question becomes, is this wide enough, this infrastructure, to accommodate a golf cart or an NEV? Because you don't need that width for a bike, but you do need it for an NEV.
If I may, I'd like to call our city engineer, Vin
Sure,
Kay,
sure.
who's in the audience tonight.
Good evening, Chair Hutchinson, Planning Commission. Happy to be here. Vin Kay, City Engineer. I've been here approximately not quite 5 months. Roland works under my group, and I just want to add some additional information, perhaps it may be helpful. I was actually at Lincoln Hills, with the coffee with the mayor yesterday morning and fielded a lot of questions, mostly, concerning transportation and traffic engineering related issues. I think perhaps in my role as city engineer to help the planning commission put things in context, right? We have a general plan, right? And within the general plan is a circulation element and the transportation plan. And then with bike peds and trails and NEVs and golf carts, those are very important components of circulation and transportation within the city, right? So I think for tonight, I think with our planning manager and our senior engineer, I think they have presented some informational items, but I would recommend that we take your requests and comments and then perhaps come back later to try to address, some of your comments and concerns. That being said, what Roland has presented gives me sort of a pathway into how we can potentially address some of your comments and concerns. We will be updating our bicycle transportation plan. There are things that I'm aware of that kind of ties our hands as far as what we can or cannot do. When it comes to development, we're sort of bound by the Subdivision Map Act. We can't always condition developers to widen the road and add additional bike lanes and NEV lanes. Roland understands when we embark on a capital improvement project, it often takes years, if not decades, to go through the environmental and right-of-way process to get us to construction, right? But having a master plan and having a general plan with, specific plans provides a roadmap for us to move in that direction. If we have a very well thought out, NEV master plan, bicycle, pedestrian, trails master plan, we can apply those and hold the developers accountable when the master plan communities come in. That's what I promise to do as your city engineer. My role is to try to connect everything transportation related. But again, I would ask that you just provide your comment and input and feedback, and we will document that. But other than that, I would just encourage, more discussion. And if there's any additional information, any questions you have for me, I'd be happy to,
Thank you.
try to help respond.
I understand my colleague, Vice Chair Gilbert, has a follow-up, and then I'd like to poll the rest of my colleagues for any comments that might aid you in when you come back to present more information. Vice
So-
Chair Gilbert?
I specifically asked my question because a couple of my neighbors asked me about it. And so I heard your long answer, but I didn't hear an answer to my question. So I guess that's something that we'll know before the city commission needs to make a decision on the project, correct?
Right now, there's.
Any project that comes before us, such as this bicycle infrastructure update. It's an update for us, but there's going to be construction done to the tune of $1.2 million on just this one project. And I'd like to be assured, so I can assure my neighbors, that we looked at the issue of NEVs, possibly golf carts, and bicycles as a new way of getting around the community. And I'm not looking for the answer today, because you obviously don't have it. But I would hope, because I asked the question, before this project is developed, we develop the answer.
Thank you.
I think Roland may have an answer to that one.
I don't need the answer tonight.
Yeah, I think right now this is getting some information to you, and so I'd like to hear from my colleagues. Commissioner Reedy, do you have any comments or questions?
Only if we can get the slide deck from earlier, then I can formulate more thoughts.
Which slide is that?
I will actually have all meeting presentations online. And it will also be included in the minutes for next month. So
Okay.
yes, it will be available.
So we'll have time to be able to review it really in detail. Commissioner McKinney?
Not really questions. Want to welcome Vin to the city. It's nice to meet you. And I appreciate the tie back, the discussion, the tie back to, as a reminder, there's a general plan that sets a lot of this policy and past planning out that these specific plans are meant to follow. So I appreciate that reminder.
Thank you. Commissioner Eklund?
The only suggestion that I'd like to offer, and this is just a suggestion for something that I think would help the community if it's possible and if it's feasible for the planning department and for tech. I think it'd be really helpful, similarly to what we're doing in economic development, where Jen put together that whole interactive development map that really helps for us to dive in and look and see what projects are being developed, what hasn't been approved, where it stands for the public to be able to go in on their own and look into what's happening. I can see something like that being really helpful for the bike and trail system, if it's feasible to be able to go in and see where those missing parts are and have a little click or opening to what that part is waiting for, if that makes sense. So if someone's like, why isn't the bike path, connecting from here to there? You can click on that spot and it's like, well, it's when this development takes place, and then, you have an answer instead of like, a lot of people just want to know why, for the effort of transparency.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, I don't really have any questions, but just want to say I'm happy to see, all this thought process going on. I know that's been one of the challenges, I think, in the development and build out of Lincoln is it's really awkward getting around town, I think, just driving. Just how it's laid out. So I'm glad that there's, this thought process going on to see how we can better interconnect everything, especially with pedestrian traffic. I'm on board, want to keep encouraging, as much pedestrian traffic as possible, making it easier for people to get around, other than using vehicles. I know, a lot of us use the bike paths and, for pedestrian traffic and biking, and so I'm just happy to see this continuing forward. So I guess the only thing I want to say is, I just want to encourage, continue to look at, as the city continues to develop, we still have a lot of growing to do, but just keeping us at the forefront. I think there's been some missed opportunities in some of the developments that have come up as far as, putting bike paths along, boundary, around the borders of different developments and so forth that right now could be really helpful to have, like getting, different places. So just kind of thinking about, future forward thinking of, how to continue integrating all that would be great.
Thank you. And Commissioner Jerry Johnson online, do you have any other comments?
Just really to clarify where I was coming from on my earlier comments, and that wasn't to complain about this one project or the lack thereof, but I'm expressing a concern that if a bicycle path or a bicycle lane appears on the master plan, when a development is being reviewed, I'm concerned that conditions are made for the extension of a bike path or a bike lane when it's clearly shown on our master plan. And I think in this case, the ball was dropped somewhere. And maybe that was just a fluke or a one-off mistake. But I hope that's all it was.
Thank you.
I think I'm appreciative of the presentation today. I'm very appreciative of the attention that is being paid to bicycle infrastructure and trails generally.
Thank you. I too concur with most of the comments here, especially Commissioner Eklund, the whys. I would love to see more details and statuses besides just it's there. We all have questions. I also think it's important to remind everyone that the city of Lincoln, of course, was an all-American city several years ago. We have an award-winning general plan. And that general plan, many of us think, is a living document that changes as the times change. And I think we all embrace the idea of a walkable city, and especially a walkable downtown. And part of that, of course, critical to us is biking. And so that's the end of my comment. Normally, it's not a public comment for something like this. However, I did notice that there was someone in the audience who was waving her hand. Are you all right? If you had a question that was not answered.
Hi.
If you can please state your name and what part of the city, thank you.
Yep, my name is Kristen Rose, and I live in Lincoln, a resident for 10 years. I'm grateful to see that we're making this connectivity, and I just wanted maybe them to, just wanted to point out maybe to stay for the meeting, because a lot of us are here regarding the Village 7 project, and a big concern of us of that project was some of that connectivity, and a big part of it was more road. So being able to collaborate and have the input from us residents and citizens would be a great, to collaborate and be able to make this project. I would hate for them to spend the money and then we have to go back and spend more money to actually have the vision come to fruition. So if you guys can stick around and listen to maybe some of the concerns that the rest of us have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, and with that, we will go back to our agenda, which is the consent agenda. And again, all matters on the consent agenda are considered routine business and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a request to remove a specific item for separate action is received. Any items removed will be considered after the remainder of the consent agenda. Do any of my colleagues wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
I do, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Johnson. Which item would you like to have removed from the consent?
8D, please.
8D. Thank you.
Okay.
See if the public wants any.
Does the public have any item that they would like to have removed from the consent agenda for discussion? Hearing none?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'll move approval of the balance of the consent calendar.
I'll second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
and Chair Hutchison.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will now consider item 8D, which is the Jasper by D.R. Horton project to consider a specific development plan and permit or design review for the approval of 4 single-family floor plans with 3 elevations for the proposed 198 residential units by D.R. Horton. The project site is within the approved Joyner Ranch East subdivision, which is part of the adopted Joyner Ranch General Development Plan, located at the southeast corner of Joyner Parkway and Nicholas Road. Commissioner Johnson, you wish to have this removed. I'd like to hear the staff report before we further any other discussion. Is that acceptable to you?
Yes, I don't feel the need to have a separate staff report. I just like to express a concern.
It's part of the agenda
Right.
for the city to provide to us a staff report if necessary.
Okay, so I don't think it's necessary unless others do. What I saw when I reviewed the elevations of the 4 houses.
Excuse me, it's point of order. Yes,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I would like to hear a very brief staff report so that
Thank
the
you.
public can be aware of what we're talking about.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Boniface Chwamba. I am one of the assistant planners in the department. Joyner Ranch East Development Land Development Permit Design Review application is located at southeast corner of Joyner Parkway and Nicholas Road. On the 28th of February, the design review board came together, they said, they deliberated, they went through an array of floor plans and elevations. And this project is actually an application for specific development plan review for approval of 4 single-family floor plans with 3 elevations for 198 residential units by Diara Orton. The proposed site, like I said, is southeast corner, Joiner Parkway. The DRB set on February 28. They made some comments, and those comments were immediately followed by a remedy. The applicant went ahead, they remedied, met the recommended fixtures and sent us back the elevations. So this is the project location. Not sure if you are seeing it clearly. And this is Joiner Range East site plan as a subdivision. Unfortunately, I don't have the entire array of elevations and the floor plans. But what I have here are the front elevation changes that were proposed by the DRB. And this is one of the recommended changes on West Coast front elevation. There was this part here that wasn't extended. And the DRB was full of consensus in agreeing that there was need to extend this railing here to the bottom. And it was fixed down here, as you can see. This railing extends down here to break this part here that was disjointed. Another recommendation made by the DRB was they felt like the wall here was too extended and it created it was monotonous to look at. So the suggestion was to bring down the siding to reduce the open space above the garage. And hence, this railing was applied here as a corrective measure to that recommendation. In terms of consistency, like you were saying, this project is actually in line with the general plan policies of the city, Joiner Range GDP area requirements, our City of Lincoln Code, Chapter 1832, which deals with planned development district, and Chapter 1864, which regulates design reviews. In a nutshell, staff recommends Planning Commission to find the design review board consistent with the Lincoln Municipal Code, Planned Development District, specifically Joiner Range General Development Plan, and Lincoln Municipal Code Chapter 1864, which provides general provisions. And in view of that, staff asks or requests the PC to approve JASPA DRB review recommendations subject to specific conditions of approval, which are attached to some of the documents that come with that project online. What I wanted to say today is Joiner Range East project was actually meant to be an integrated community consisting of different land use districts, including ranging from residential, industrial, commercial. The idea being, if we build communities that have all these land uses close together, we build compact communities that reduce some of the contemporary problems that people are facing. For example, issues related to transportation, energy, and housing. So when such a subdivision is approved, this in turn helps implement the general plan in the sense that the general plan is the blueprint with all the ambitions that the city aspires to achieve. Then we have our housing element. The housing element actually is the document closer to what we are viewing today. When such a development is approved, it adds to the existing housing stock. When it adds to the existing housing stock, it helps the housing element in terms of implementation. And once the housing element is implemented, it also in turn helps achieve some of the policies prescribed in the general plan. So that's a little bit I wanted to say tonight. I had underestimated, I thought it was a consent item, and I gave very little detail in the presentation. But we are open to questions.
Thank you very much for your comments. Commissioner Jerry Johnson, do you have any further comments from your request to pull this item?
I do. I was wondering if staff could please put up the elevation of the couple of houses that we previously saw.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. Good. All right. The commission will notice that the garages take up 2/3 to 3/4 of the frontage of the homes. And that being the case, I find it difficult to agree with the conclusion of the staff report that this is consistent with the general plan. And I'd refer the commission to the general plan, page LU 2.9. The city shall encourage the use of alleys and side-loaded garages to de-emphasize the garage as the prominent visual feature of a residence. I'd be inclined to approve the request as long as we don't have to say that it's consistent with the goals, policies, and intent of the city's general plan, because I know for a fact the drafters of the general plan did not foresee this kind of a house.
May I say something, Commissioner?
Yes.
Yes.
I said that specifically in relation to the idea that the Joanna Ranch East General Development Plan does not provide a specific or a precise structural design requirements for housing developments in the area. So what it requests developers to do is to create structures that are generally in harmony with the neighborhood, the existing neighborhood in general. So that being the case, I think the developer also gets the benefit of doubt there, because the general development plan is not very specific on what kind of design should be put into these housing developments.
Thank you. Just as a point of note, after serving 4 years on the design review board myself, I know that the team goes over these designs, these elevations in great detail, and also correlates to the general plan. I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Johnson. Does anyone else have a comment before I call for a motion?
Just quickly, I appreciate the changes, right? I think those are really good catches and changes, so I support those changes entirely. And I would just point out that, what was read by Commissioner Jerry Johnson is that those things are encouraged and not required. And, it's very consistent with the type of development that you see throughout the entire city. So with that, I'm supportive of this.
Yes, Vice Chair Gilbert, your comment? Oh, did someone else have a comment? Okay.
Well, my comment is, we have an obligation to provide housing. It's a big part of the state's drive to provide homes within California that are affordable. And as much as I'd love to see everybody able to buy a 3 or 4 or 5,000 square foot home, we can't get new home buyers into a home at those kind of prices that those size homes demand. And so the market changes. I've been doing this for 45 years on 2 different city councils, and interest rates go up and down. Prices relative to income go up and down. There'll be a time when the typical buyer will be able to buy a home, a bigger home, more affordable than today because of the interest rates. But I think we do have an obligation to see that the builders and developers put homes on the market so that we can start completing the general plan of the city. And so I'm very much in favor of this project. And when interest rates come down, I think it's going to sell like hotcakes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Eklund?
Thank you. For those of you that don't know, I sit on the design review board, and I just wanted to say that this applicant was very thoughtful and thorough with all of our requests and was great to work with, very friendly, kind, really cared about what we're trying to build here in our community, as well as the quality that they're using to still meet the restrictions of financing and the state of, the housing market as it is now. It's challenging for these builders, and I echo your thoughts as well, Vice Chair. It's very important for us to meet these numbers, but at the same time, we don't want to cut corners and not have quality homes. I don't feel like that's the case with this development at all. And lastly, I just want to point out that the colors don't do it justice when you're looking at the application or you're looking at it digitally on screen. We were really impressed with the color palette that I'm sure they spent hours putting together thoughtfully. It's going to look beautiful. I would live in one of these homes.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Reedy.
Just want to echo what Commissioner Eklund said about the developer. I'm supportive of the project. I'm also on the design review board. I think as a matter of a forward-looking statement, it'd be nice to reconcile what Commissioner Gilbert said about having affordable homes with what Commissioner Johnson said about having them be less garage. I think those things aren't necessarily in conflict, and it'd be nice to find a way to merge both of those things in future developments as we see them. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Eric Johnson, your comment.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the other Commissioner Johnson's comments. I guess my viewpoint is, I agree. We do need to build houses and everything. I see time and time again where we deviate from the general plan. I know it's recommended and suggested, but a lot of times we go against what's recommended and suggested. And just because the rest of the city looks a certain way that isn't consistent with what's suggested in the general plan, in my mind, doesn't justify continuing to go that way. So I really appreciate Commissioner Johnson's comments about that. And I think at some point, we need to start getting back to that. So those are my comments.
Thank you. With that, do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-05, considering and approving the specific development plan, development permit design review for Jasper by D.R. Horton?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Sorry, I missed the motion.
Oh,
Thank you, Commissioner Beatty. Voice call, I mean, not voice call, roll call vote. Commissioner Beatty,
Yes.
Vice Chair, Vice Chair Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
No.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
and Chair Hutchinson.
yes. And the motion passes 6-2, are there any? 5-2. Thank you. 5-2.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right. That brings us to item number 9A on the agenda, which is the Village 7 Specific Plan and General Development Plan amendments. The amendments of the adopted Village 7 Specific Plan and General Development Plan involving revisions to the land use map and texts of the plan. I would like to hear from the staff.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm just getting this set up, so give me one moment. Perfect. Okay. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Michaela Noble, Assistant Planner with the Community Development Department. Tonight, I have my colleague here, Kevin Vellante with Rainey Planning. He's been working out with me on this project, and he'll be presenting some slides later on in the presentation. The project we have before you is the Village 7 Specific Plan and General Development Plan Amendments Project. In June 2010, the City of Lincoln adopted this Village 7 Specific Plan and General Development Plan for the development of over 700 acres to include approximately 3,000 residential units and 125,000 square feet of commercial space. During this time, the Village 7 Specific Plan Environmental Impact Report, also known as an EIR, was certified as well. In August 2013, the city executed a development agreement with Lincoln Land Holdings LLC to develop 516 acres of the Village 7 Plan area. In January 2017, the city adopted an amendment to the development agreement to reflect minor changes to the park phasing plan. And in August 2022, the city adopted an amendment to the Village 7 Specific Plan to incorporate new lot sizes and increase the residential unit count by approximately 30 units in Phase 1 of development. The proposed project consists of approximately 700 acres within the Village 7 Specific Plan area. The project is currently underdeveloped. However, infrastructure improvements as part of the Phase 1 of the Village 7 project located in the central portions of the plan area are moving forward. Surrounding uses include undeveloped land to the north and south, the North Ingram Slough and the Lincoln Crossing subdivision to the east, and the City of Lincoln wastewater treatment and undeveloped land to the west. The applicant, Lewis Plan Communities, is requesting to amend the Village 7 Specific Plan and amend the Village 7 General Development Plan and certify an addendum to the Village 7 Specific Plan EIR. The proposed project will not result in any new significant information or of substantial importance, and therefore the preparation of an additional supplemental or subsequent EIR is not required. The proposed amendments to the Village 7 Specific Plan and General Development Plan include revisions to the plan area's land use designations and changes to the development processing methods.
The project is intended to reflect the open space areas and conservation easement boundaries approved by several federal and state agencies, update land uses to respond to market shifts, strategically consolidate park sites, and improve efficiency and simplicity to implement the Village 7 specific plan and general development plan. The proposed project would include the removal of 4.5 acres of the Village Country Estates, increase the Village low-density and medium-density residential designation acreage, decrease the Village high-density residential and Village mixed-use designations, and change about 12 acres of Village parks and recreation/linear parkways to Village open space. The previously anticipated total unit count would not change with the implementation of the proposed amendments. The existing approved land use plan is shown on the left of the screen. And on the right, the proposed land use illustrates the land use modifications and the park consolidations. Staff analyzed the proposed amendments and concluded that they are consistent with the goals and policies and intent of the adopted Village 7 specific plan and the city's general plan. Now, at this time, I'd like to invite Kevin up to the screen.
Thank you very much, Michaela. Good evening, Chair and Commission. Just a few points I'd like to make about the environmental review. Again, my name is Kevin Valente. I'm a contract senior planner from Rainey Planning and Management. And Rainey Planning and Management prepared the addendum to the environmental review document. So the proposed project has been determined to include minor technical changes and would not substantially modify or increase the potential development of the site from what was previously anticipated and analyzed. As described previously, the total unit count to the development within the project site would not increase, and the proposed project would not introduce new residential lots. Therefore, the area of disturbance associated with the proposed project would not extend beyond what was already approved and analyzed. In addition, since the preparation of the environmental review, an Army Corps of Engineers Section 404 permit and a Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board Section 401 certification and a 1602 stream bed alteration agreement have been acquired for the site. And as such, in addition to the mitigation measures associated with the project, these new permits and certifications also need to be complied with. And that results in the change of the open space in accordance with these certifications and permits that have been acquired. The addendum did include minor modifications to the cultural resources mitigation to better reflect current practices, including recognizing the role of the tribes that are traditionally and culturally affiliated with the project site and the vicinity in determining the presence and significance of tribal cultural resources. The city coordinated with the United Auburn Indian community to ensure the modified mitigation measure was appropriate. This modification included the appropriate methods to treat such resources if they are present on site. All other applicable mitigation measures from the previous environmental impact report are included in the updated mitigation monitoring plan. And with that, the addendum determined that substantial evidence does not exist that the proposed project would have a significant effect on the environment beyond which was previously evaluated in the Village 7 specific plan. Specifically, the proposed project would not result in any new significant information or substantial importance, new impacts, new mitigation measures, or new or revised alternatives, or an increase in the severity of the previously identified impacts. So those are the findings for the actual addendum. As a result, subsequent EIR is not required pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act. And that's all I have for you on the environmental section.
Thank you. Before I open it to public comment, oh, I'm sorry.
All good.
Got another comment?
One more slide.
Yeah.
Staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending City Council adopt the proposed addendum to the certified 2010 Village 7 specific plan EIR for the Liberty at Lincoln project, adopt a resolution recommending City Council approve this Village 7 specific plan amendment, and adopt a resolution recommending City Council approve the Village 7 general development plan amendment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Before I open it to public comments, do I have any comments from my colleagues? Yes, Commissioner Reedy.
Yes, so she's answered these in email, but I'm asking again, just for the benefit of the group. In the development plan, it talks about 515 point something, but your staff report shows 703. Can you explain what the difference is?
Yeah, definitely. So the Village 7 plan area, let me go back a couple slides just to get you oriented. So the Village 7 plan area is this whole area outlined in yellow. That is the 700 acres, and in total, it's about 3,300 approved dwelling units. The village is split up into 4 sections, the biggest section being the Lewis property, which is 516 acres, which is this, red portion south of, thank you, which is south of Moore Road and all the way down to the bottom of the Village 7 plan area. So that is the 516 acres, and that is approximately 2,800 dwelling units. So that's kind of where the two numbers shift, as this amendment to the GDP specifically has to do with that 516 acres, as that is the only portion of this plan area that has been annexed into the city so far.
So the two documents combined that are being amended were some 450 pages before and are now 30% shorter. So it's a lot of information, and I still haven't had enough time to really understand it all. So I'm a little, I'm concerned about the timing, but is there some kind of bullet list or memorialization of all the things that were taken out of those 132 pages?
Yeah, we do have the red line version, which I'm more than happy to provide to you.
Okay.
I will warn you that document is about 500 pages in length with all the textual edits and kind of the spacing changes that are made. So, I'm more than happy to provide it. The cleaner version is, less storage on with the PDF. But to kind of summarize the major changes, I get that it kind of seems like it's a big shift in, page count, which these documents are pretty lengthy typically. Reviewing the previously approved documents, there was a lot of blank pages after the chapter signal, to where we're getting rid of the blank pages, we're getting rid of unnecessary graphics that are either super specific, that they're not actually helpful to kind of overall development if you're trying to meet those specific criteria, and kind of streamlining that process and making this document that's quite hefty a little more user-friendly and easy to read.
Sure. And then one last one I had for you was, where the two plans before and after have a change in the mix of residential. And my first question is, has there been any financial analysis done on what the impact of that different mix would be on the long-term property tax revenue to the city?
No, there hasn't been a study. We don't require that as part of the application process. For us, we're like Commissioner Gilbert said earlier, housing is kind of a big priority for us. We care, not that we don't care about property tax, but those number of units, we need houses, we need places to build them. So that is where we were focusing our energy towards. But as of, we don't have that study and we don't require that.
Okay. The other plan removes 4, 5, 6 acres in commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand there's a provision in the developer agreement that allows that to be removed because of the proximity to Lincoln Crossing. In that, it specifies that removal of that enables some 202 extra units, but you're keeping the unit count the same.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why we didn't make use of that space for additional housing units, to your last point?
Right. I have the applicant here, Phil Rodriguez with Lewis Communities. I'd like to invite him up to kind of address this.
First thing I want to hear about, Phil, is your arm.
Yeah.
This isn't about my arm, this is about the project, but I just had rotator cuff surgery a couple of weeks ago, so long recovery. But I've done it before. First of all, before I get started, Phil Rodriguez, Lewis Group of Companies, Lewis Plan Communities. Good to see all of you again. But before I say anything, I have to compliment staff, Mel, the planning manager, and Michaela, really, who's just been a joy to work with. Very detail-oriented, a pleasure. Honestly, I wish I could clone her and take her to other cities and counties where we do business. So she does a wonderful job. of just organization. It was rather impressive and fun. Sometimes it's extremely challenging. But to your question, the specific plan, land use summary in the original was a total of 2,470 units. With the commercial site, it was 2,268 units. So that's where that 202 delta is. If we just built everything that was originally planned with the retail center, there would only be 2,268 units, residential units in the project. But since the retail center has been removed, we're just capturing those 202 and getting to 2,470 units, specific to our property, the 516 acres.
Yeah, so I thought I have to go look at it. As you can tell, I have 4 binders here to capture all the data. But I thought that in your slide and in the development plan, the unit count is the same with and without the commercial. That's what prompted my question. Not that I don't have an objection to the 202. I didn't see that you were actually capturing the additional 202 with the removal of the commercial.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I think we probably just didn't maybe mischaracterize or didn't characterize it and clear that up. But we're not actually, the units that were analyzed in part of the specific plan is still 2,470 units. Originally, as I mentioned, in the old land use summary table, which I don't know that you have that in front of you.
I do.
Okay, so it said 2,268 units, and then there was a provision of the 202 units. There's a little footnote in there somewhere. I don't have it in front of me, that described that those units would be added in if the retail site was removed. The bottom line in this, and I guess I could just maybe summarize, is for the entire specific plan, we're not adding any more units that were originally approved in 2010. The challenge with the longevity of getting all of the entitlements completed, the city process, which was long and thoughtful and took a great deal of time, coupled with the general plan that was being prepared at the same time. Then post-approval, we had to go to the Army Corps of Engineers and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, California Regional Water Quality Control Board, and seek their approvals for all of the wetland mitigation that was associated with the project. And the original plan, we preserved a lot of wetlands that we thought were important. And that's why you see that land use plan originally. But when we stepped into the federal and estates room, they said, well, no, we think other things are important. In fact, we want you to preserve more land at the very southern edge of the project that's directly adjacent to 2 wetland preserves that have been established. So they wanted to create a bigger buffer. And so smaller wetland preserves that were within our project, they said, make those go away because they're not really, the life cycle of preserving something that's isolated is not good. So remove those. We removed some in north of Ferrari Ranch Road. We removed some south of Ingram Slough and arrived at the land use plan that we have. And so with all of that, we needed to kind of go through and reformat the planning areas to make sure we had an adequate number or a percentage of LDR units, low-density residential units, medium-density residential units, and high-density residential units. So that's the exercise what this is all about. The structure, speaking to the bike plan, the pedestrian plan, we have 18 miles of trails and paths in the project, the entire specific plan. That hasn't changed. So we've just navigated, and those will be along the border edge, which is beneficial, and we'll connect to Moore Road, and we'll connect to Ferrari. The park acreage, still the same, because that's a requirement. You have X number of residential units, you have to have X acres of parkland. So that didn't change. The open space acreage went up, because that's what the Fed and the state wanted. So that's when, to account for that, we just shrunk the widths of landscape corridors adjacent to residential streets, not residential streets, but collector roadways. And that's beneficial because that's a maintenance issue for the city to take care of, a water issue. So you're just trying to reduce the amount of landscape we build and minimize costs. Long-winded answer, I know, but I figured while I was here, I'd kind of try to give you more context.
Thank you. Commissioner McKitty?
Good now.
I just want to say I really like the changes. I think the plan seems much more logical to me, especially the open space in the southern area. The flow of that, the additional buffer. I do like the consolidation of the parks. I think for the city's purposes of O&M and being able to maintain those parks is going to be easier and better for the city in the long run. So
Thank
I
you.
appreciate the changes.
If I could add, Chair, to that, and I missed it, thank you for bringing that up. Back in the mid-2000s, the idea of having pocket parks within neighborhoods was really cool, creative. What the industry's found is the only folks that use that pocket park were the homes that were around it. And what was missing is the ability to have larger parks with play fields and whatnot. So we've just consolidated the park acreage into fewer parks.
Thank you. And Commissioner Eklund, any comments before I open it to public?
Yeah, actually, you touched on, I think, everything that I was going to ask you. So that was really good. I appreciate that. I was going to ask you why the linear landscaping shrank. So it's a cost savings for the city, which makes sense. I actually liked the former green space in the other plan better because it made me picture kind of more of what Sun City has, where they have the, the landscape and the green belts that everybody can enjoy from multiple homes, not just the outer edges. And it kind of breaks up the houses and more people have views and green belt spaces. And I was thinking, well, gosh, it seems like that would be, they would sell better at a higher price point because people are usually more willing to spend more on a green belt view. So I didn't quite understand what happened with the switch, but now I do. So it was an environmental impact and conservation issue.
It was, but at the same time, along the southern edge of the plan, you might expect in the future where that open space area is now consolidated, that there would be homes backing up to that. There would still be homes backing up to the open space corridors throughout the project, typically.
A good point. Yeah. Okay, and then my last question was just regarding the commercial being cut in half. So I was just wanting to understand more of that.
Great question. So one of our divisions of our company, and we're a privately held company, been around since 1955, and one of the divisions, well, two of the divisions, we have Lewis Apartment Communities, which we build and own and manage all of the rental properties that we have. And we also build and own and manage all the retail centers that we have. So in all of our master plans, we like to strive for a retail center. That's an investment property that the family, the Lewis family holds, I'll say in perpetuity, because it's true, they keep it forever. But at the same time, it's all about marketability. And our concern with the approval of the project back in the analysis back in 2008, 2010, is if nothing ever happened in the city of Lincoln, that this site might work. Because, and if the retail environment stayed the same. Well, one, the retail environment has changed significantly. And two, a lot has been built out in just in Lincoln Crossing and east of Lincoln Crossing with respect to grocery stores. And it's adding to that is along the 65 corridor at Nelson Lane, there is a massive amount of retail, office, commercial planned at the interchange of Nelson and 65. So that will develop over time. And if we were to develop this at a marginal opportunity, I can guarantee that it would be cannibalized by that new development along Nelson and 65. It would be a center that wouldn't survive. And so that was our concern back then. We discussed it with the city, and what was agreed upon is when we formed the development agreement, we would put language in there that would enable the change in the future if necessary. If the city approved more development and if retail development and if more retail development was built, which it has.
Okay. Yeah, my concern is just that we're not even, I mean, once it's gone, and then there's no opportunity, for anything. And then I also am concerned with, as far as the general plan, I know that the village concept was to incorporate the ability for every village to be able to access their own grocery store and their own amenities without having to travel to other villages, which then therefore also has, its own built-in traffic mitigations. You're not having to drive as far. So as far as like the quality of life and the village concept, that was probably my biggest concern, was the elimination of half of the commercial. Because I think, not just looking at commercial as retail, but as, economic development opportunity, that we just are getting rid of, and there's no opportunity. If it's gone, it's gone. And I just want to make sure that we really get it right, because I love this development, and I know that we need it in our city, but I also know that we need tax revenue. You know.
It's a great concern. And like I
Yeah.
said, we analyzed this for years,
Yeah.
trying to make it work. We've talked to retailers, grocers, and it's just the wrong site. And that's a lot because the retail environment has changed. It's highly competitive with online retail and delivery of goods and groceries. And so grocery stores and those massive stores you might see are pretty much gone. It's more boutique these days. But there are plenty of opportunities in the city for that. But as Michaela mentioned, as I think you implied, what's important today is to increase the number of residential units, that tax base, those shoppers, to stop all of the sales tax bleed that's occurring with everybody driving to Roseville and Rockland and shopping. The more rooftops you have, and what we describe in a retail environment, the more retail you get. Because what has changed in the last decade plus is the circles that the retailers use and the number of rooftops. They now want a lot more rooftops in that circle.
Thank you.
One last question. I was curious as to what's forecasted with increase in traffic to this development, being that, it's just, everyone's going to be going up Ferrari Ranch, and it's kind of only one main way in. And with the school there and the high density, what do you guys forecast in that respect?
We have SP Mann, our senior engineer, on the line if he wants to chime in on this question.
Commissioner Whitney, can you please repeat the question again?
Sure. My question is, can you provide some information and forecasting as much as possible with what the traffic impact is going to be on particularly Ferrari Ranch Road with the school there and the high-density housing, being that that is the main thoroughfare into the community?
Yeah, so the modeling would have occurred at EIR, traffic impact. There is generally a traffic impact analysis that's conducted with the EIR, Project Environmental Impact Report. So that would have captured the modeling. And there's the DA, the developer agreement that we have that requires all the frontage improvements, including Ferrari Ranch Road, to be developed and widened simultaneously with the phase. So in this case, it requires Lewis to widen Ferrari Ranch Road to 4 lanes. Currently, it's being built as 2 lane, and they actually have the plans already for the 4 laning in the works. And so when phase 2A gets widened, which is just basically north of Ferrari Ranch Road, then they would actually have to widen that street, segment of Ferrari Ranch Road, basically from the existing stub to Moore Road. And so that's what's going to happen. Currently, all of the development that's proposed in phase 1, if you note, it's south of Ferrari Ranch Road. So that's phase 1. And so that's adequate to handle the traffic that's going to be generated. So once phase 2, A, B, and C get started, that road has to be widened to 4 lanes, including a proposed signal at the intersection of Central and Western. So it's Exhibit B of the draft. GDP has a phasing plan. If you can I share my screen, and would that be helpful? Or
Yeah, that would be helpful. 'Cause
okay,
it's probably gonna take me a minute to get there
let me
on my
let me
own,
yeah, let me do that.
and then everyone else can see as well.
Give me a second. Can you see my screen? The colored exhibit?
Yes.
So this is the GDP amendment. This is Figure 8-1, the phasing plan, kind of lays out the phasing. So per the DA development agreement, there was an amendment on this DA in 2022 Michaela mentioned in August 2022 that basically ties the widening of Ferrari Ranch Road. This is Ferrari Ranch Road, if you can see my cursor. This is Sorrento, existing Lincoln Crossing, and so the bridge is already in the built. So right now they're building this segment here, and so this orange segment is phase 2. So when they start working on phase 2A, this street has to be 4-laned, and at some point, based on the traffic warrant analysis, they're going to have to put a signal here at this intersection because it's going to operate 4-lane. You know, basically it'll be a full 4-lane intersection. Right now, this is what's being developed here. So that basically requires them to build 2-lane segment of the street. Am I making sense?
Yeah, that really helps.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Lastly, I would just like to end on a high note, positive note, and thank Phil and Lewis Communities for being such a great partner to Western Placer Unified School District and helping us achieve our goals of building another school. We really, really appreciate that initiative and the efforts that you have partnered with our superintendent and board. So thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Eric Johnson, anything to add, comments before we open?
Yes, definitely interested to hear what public comments are. I have a few follow-up, excuse me, questions. So I'm hearing it's going to be widened to 4 lanes. Is that only within Village 7, or is the whole Ferrari Ranch, like all the way to Highway 65, widening?
SP?
So yeah, just give me a second. Yeah, so no, it's gonna be widened along Village 7, and then in the future, west of Village 7, Village 5 is supposed to carry that all the way across the frontage, west of Moore Road. Basically, the Moore Road. Let me share my screen again. I think that'd be helpful. Give me a second.
How many maps and villages?
Yeah, I've got so many things open here. So give me a second, please. So this is the segment. This is the segment in Lewis's plan. So Lewis property this is the western boundary of Village 7. And so this segment and beyond would be Village 5 here. If you look at, yeah. So this is Village 5 is here, Village 5. You see my cursor on the top left of the screen here.
Mm-hmm.
So Village 7 boundaries is kind of here, right here. This here.
Okay.
So west of Nelson would Village 5. So there'd be a small segment of Nelson. That's gonna be 2-lane. But more in the future becomes a future Ferrari Ranch Road, if you will. And it's gonna get widened to 4 lanes and then basically have connectivity to Nelson Lane, which again, it's gonna be all done with the Village 5. Which is currently trying to annex into the city.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess my concern is we're putting, 2,800 units, dwelling units in this area, and it's kind of a choke point right there, Ferrari Ranch Road. So although it's great, it's going to be 4 lanes each side right in the village. I'm concerned about going to the east towards Highway 65. I mean, that's going to be a lot of traffic impact on there. From what I'm hearing, and I might be wrong, that's not going to change, correct?
Yeah, until the time. So there'll be limited connectivity west of Village 7.
But on the east, I understand sometime in the future, Village 5 might be there, but that's not even moving at this point. So I'm concerned about to the east, like towards Highway 65, the traffic impacts, because we're saying there's going to be so much traffic, we need 4 lanes, but the rest of it's not being accommodated.
Yeah, so there is connectivity to the east. So I mean, the Ferrari Ranch Road is fully widened all the way to 60 Lincoln Boulevard. until a time in the future, once we have the Nelson Lane interchange built in the future, there's going to be limited, access west of Village 7, but just basically a 2-lane road.
Sure.
So most of
Okay.
the traffic would actually be traveling east, as you said,
Right. And
or
that's kind of my
north,
concern.
on Moore Road
Okay, but there's nothing,
this year.
I mean, Moore Road is tiny and then they're going to go through the community of Sorrento.
Yeah.
So I just don't see great options with that. I kind of see that as a concern, but I'll move on. So my next question is kind of retail space. I am kind of concerned, as Commissioner Eklund was mentioning, the whole village concept was kind of a self-sustaining village. Again, that's how the award-winning general plan was created. And I know we like to tout it's an award-winning general plan, but again, I just see ourselves deviating from that. So I just have concerns about restricting retail space in there. Again, it's going to create more need for people to go out of that area instead of having what they need, close to them. So I guess I'm just concerned about that. And also just, I'd rather spend my money here in Lincoln than continue to go to neighbor cities to give them my sales tax. So I know we have to build houses, but I just feel like that's a little short-sighted. I know I always talk about mandates, but I mean, looking at the sustainability of a city, I think it's important to be capturing sales tax as well and commercial opportunities. So I guess I'm a little concerned about that. The other thing too is I'm curious what the difference is between, find it, in the staff report, the table 1 existing and proposed land use summary. What's the difference between village parks and recreation / linear parkway and village open space / major paseo?
Yeah, so let me bring this up. So on the map, just a general, the lime green is your parks and recreation. So those are your, your major parks that you have, community and neighborhood parks. The darker green are your linear parkways. Excuse me. Bringing up the table myself. Which are also included as part of a recreation, the parks and recreation type. So again, these are supposed to be, connectors, have a beautiful space to walk through in order to get from, area to area within the village and, maintain those parks and connect them to bigger parks, for you to enjoy. The open space is the sage green, I'll call it. Previously with the amendment, previous to the amendment, there were major paseos proposed as, landscape corridors along roads. Those have kind of been nixed, but we've kept the zoning designation in there just in case in the future, if something changes, we don't have to add a new zoning designation.
Okay.
I'm sorry, excuse me, Michaela, if you can use the pointer, please, to just point out between your greens.
Yeah, so lime green, for an example, this is the big community park. This sage green is the village open space. And then we have this kind of darker emerald green as linear parkways, and they're available and located all throughout the plan. So I don't want to
Okay.
point to every single one.
No, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Of course.
So I just want to make sure. So I guess parks where people would play, get together and whatnot, that'd be located under the village parks and recreation
Correct.
category? Okay. And then I don't want to get to public comment. Just real quick, does any of that show, I assume there's trail connectors. I might have missed it. Is there trail connectors displayed anywhere, kind of what that looks like?
Yeah, let me pull up. Mel had previously brought it up. So this is kind of the bike and pedestrian system that the project's working on. The main connectors, there's pedestrian bridges that'll be put in or across South Ingram Slough that would connect Lincoln Crossing to the Village 7 area, and you can walk throughout the parks. More specific connections, if they're to be made, will be kind of on the map phasing. So it's kind of a general overview, but you do have your typical connection through, main roads. You have Ferrari Ranch Road. You also have Sorrento Parkway.
Sorry, excuse me, Michaela, if you can please use the
Yep.
pointer. You're using the clicker. They
Yep,
can't see it.
I know, I'm sorry. Ferrari Ranch Road right here. That'll be kind of your main, a sidewalk, to where you can access the village. Like I previously mentioned, the pedestrian bridge down here with South Ingram Slough, that'll be built. And another bridge will be built as well to connect over this part of Ingram Slough as well. We do have some trails along kind of the border of the project to where it could be accessible for other potential residents outside of Village 7. There's also the Moore Road right here. I want to say that's the dead end. I'm not sure how the dead end looks if people can cross it there. I'm not aware. But that is also another project with our capital team that is they're trying to address as well. So there are multiple points of connection to get into and out of Village 7 by walking or biking.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's it for now.
All right, thank you. And yes, Commissioner Jerry Johnson, any comments?
Yes, one of
Questions?
the good things about being your last is that most of the questions have been asked and answered. I've been impressed with my fellow commissioners and their review of this project. I also want to say that I've worked with Randall Lewis and Lewis Planned Communities for probably since 1996, and they've always been a very responsible corporate citizen and have supported a number of local charities. And want to express my thanks for that and my pleasure in having this project finally come to fruition. I did have one question on the reduction of high density housing and how that might impact the city's housing elements goal for low income affordable housing. Could staff address that?
Sure. So, high density, with current times is, a very important, piece of the puzzle. There is a little bit of a reduction of that acreage. However, it's with high density residential and all residential, there is a varying range that's allowed of use types within a designation. So for example, for Village high density residential, the allowed density ratio is 13 to 25 dwelling units per acre. So it varies greatly to where we might have less technical, land use designation, but if you build it at a higher density, you're still going to get the same amount as if you had more land use designation, but we're building it at a lower density. So the goal with these high density areas is to build, townhomes, condos, or apartments. And so it does, vary with the market, and it is a little bit dependent on, what the developer wants to bring in. I know Lewis Planned Communities kind of takes hold of those multifamily projects and, they're their projects. So if Phil has any insight of, what's planning to go there, and, that would be helpful to kind of satisfy your concerns with that. I'll toss it to him to see if he's got anything.
No, always a good question when it comes to high density residential. And so as Michaela mentioned, and as I said earlier, we strive for that in all of our communities to build more. There is a slight reduction, but we see the trend in the future to increase that, probably more significantly what we're prepared to say today. And that's just because of where the housing market is headed. And what I'm referring to is what probably some of you have heard are built to rent communities, where you ended up with subdivisions or blocks of land that are more single-family home-like, but they're rental properties. So you've heard of that being done in a lot of different areas, and home builders have started doing that. But we do it a little bit differently, and we're doing that in the Sacramento region in multiple locations, in Folsom and West Sacramento and North Natomas, even in Dixon and Fairfield. And we will be bringing one here where it's a build-to-rent model, paired homes, fancy word for duplexes, but they're highly amenitized. It's a traditional rental community like we would normally build, Class A, with a clubhouse, pool, and all of those common area amenities that you might expect. And if we had our way, and we think we will see a lot more of that in this specific plan in the future. We just can't pinpoint where those areas are. And what that will require, because we'll exceed the unit count, is we'll have to come back in for an EIR type addendum that would, not so much an addendum, and Kevin can speak to that, would be more of a focused EIR because there would be impacts. You might get more traffic, you might get more noise, but those are things that we can do in the future through a supplemental type of environmental impact report. I just can't say where that will be right now, and as Mr. Johnson mentioned Randall Lewis, that's where his energy is, increasing the rental portfolio, and we're tasked to go solve that and make it happen.
Thank you. Thank you. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Gilbert, do you have any questions for staff?
I'm going to hold mine till I've heard from the public.
Thank you.
I think some of my questions are going to be answered after that.
Thank you.
And I have some comments I'd like to share later with my.
Thank you. And with that, I would like to open for public comments. As I understand it, do you have some questions there, some forms there for us?
I do have some cards. The first person I will call up is Neil Henson. I apologize if I pronounced your name incorrectly.
I wonder if before my time starts, can we pull up page 7?
Yeah. Oh.
for the
And
amendment?
before you start, I want to say thank you for coming up, but I do want your comments to be held to 3 minutes.
Sure.
Thank
Pull up
you.
page 7.
Chair, this is Christine Mollenkopf. I'm just reminding you that this is a public hearing, so we do need to formally open the hearing.
Oh, I thought I did. It's now open.
Yeah, she did.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
did you? Okay, sorry.
Yes. Yes, we did.
Nice job, Madam Chair.
So just an FYI, the timer on the screen is not working. However, I will have 2 timers here at my chair, and will signal you when you have 30 seconds left.
Get this. Perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, thanks. Commissioners, thank you for your time. My name is Neil Hinson. I live right there. And when I saw this that Commissioner Johnson put on Facebook, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to come up and share some feelings and maybe talk with some of my neighbors. What I'm really concerned about is that when I went to talk to my neighbors, there were 0 of them, 0, that had any idea about what was going on over here. The assumption is that it was going to be just more single-family residential. And so when I went through the amendment and we were kind of going through this together, and this was about 24 hours ago, I don't think that any of us really have any issues with the specificity. It's more of a locality issue and traffic and public safety issue that we have with the plan. Most of the amendments, I think we find that, they're reasonable. You talked about O&M for parks. I'd like to remind us we're about 10 to 15 years behind on building out our parks. And like I said, I've been here for 17 years, so I've seen these plans go south, and they go south really fast, despite the best efforts by people like Lewis Community. So that being said, I'd like you guys to really consider when, especially when we talk about specificity, when we talk about this bridge that's extending Ferrari Ranch Road, the ingress and egress routes from Village 7, I don't think they've been fully vetted or addressed. And we're gonna have a Placer County sheriff come talk to us and a local firefighter do that as well. The other thing is if you look at the location of where the proposed school is with the commercial, and then the HDR in there, the high density residential, again, think about like when school comes in and gets out, it's not an ideal location. And should there be a traffic or a public safety kind of emergency thing, there's zero egress, especially when we talk about going to the west, and there's no access to Highway 65. And so I think this really needs to get flushed out a little more. And before we commit to this kind of construction, there needs to be a properly vetted ingress and egress routes. And I think that would significantly change your EIR when I look at the scope for Village 7 in general. And so I realize this, it might exceed some of the amendments that we have. And again, I think some of the amendments are good with the parks, and I understand the thoughts with O&M with those things. But I don't think anybody's really looked at what this is going to do for people that live in this community. So with that, I hope I'm under 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Sorry, second card that I have, I will call Chris Fisher.
Hi, thank you for your time. I will just simply identify myself as I've spent the last 20 years in law enforcement. I work for a neighboring organization. I have previously worked for the city of Lincoln. And I just want to bring some things to your attention. I had something else planned to say, but there were some comments made that concern me, and I'm hoping I'm taking them maybe out of context. But some of the comments made were, the feeling of an obligation or a duty to provide affordable housing. And I would argue that you have a duty to provide a safe, functioning city for the people who currently live here first. I'm concerned about the business. I think the last thing any resident will say that Lincoln needs is another home. I think we need businesses here first. I understand that homes need to come, so I'm not trying to shoot the project down. But I will tell you, as a public safety official, there's no scenario where you build a high density housing and don't increase the crime risk unless you're building senior homes. So if you're going to build affordable senior living, then I am fully in support of what I'm looking at. If what your concern is to build, or your plan is to build duplexes or apartment complexes, I will tell you that the city of Lincoln in 2012 was the worst staffed public safety in the entire nation of its size. Still today in Placer County, it's the worst staffed public safety in all of Placer County by half. It has half the officers per capita than Rockland. And then Roseville exceeds Rockland. The city of Auburn exceeds everybody. So as a resident, I'm concerned for my family, for the safety of everybody that resides here. Our own fire department, we're the only city in Placer County that doesn't even have paramedics staffing its fire department. That is mind-blowing to me. That is horribly unsafe. And as a coroner, I will tell you that directly plays that effect in the end result. So when you're dealing with a traffic accident or a medical aid and you're waiting for the nearest ambulance to come from Colfax, because I've been there when that's happened, and it takes 40 minutes because that's the nearest available paramedic, that plays an end result into your community. And you have the ability to directly affect that. So I hope that we can look at this, that we can reevaluate kind of what we're looking at. Aside from the traffic concerns, I am very disturbed about the high density housing of that going into that project and where that's located adjacent to a school. So that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next person I have on the list. Sorry. Next person I'd like to call up is Clark Caldwell.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. And
to the committee for allowing me a few minutes to say hello and address the same topic with Village 7. 12-year resident, and I speak also on behalf of my wife, Sabrina, who doesn't want to speak. First of all, we love Lincoln Crossing. We've really enjoyed living here. We're raising 4 kids here, and we're so just thrilled to be members of this great area. And I just became aware of this same development just within the last 24 hours, being a neighbor of Lincoln, a neighbor of Neil's. I share the same concerns with regard to the egress and ingress on Ferrari Ranch from Highway 65 to the bridge. Where I guess we're calling that east part of Ferrari Ranch from Village 7. One knock I might have on Lincoln Crossing right now is that is already bottlenecked in the mornings during commute traffic. So if we're quadrupling the number of residents that are going to be using that roadway system without another means of accessing Highway 65, just to echo what Chris said, that's going to cause significant impacts. That's probably going to cause accidents, vehicles, pedestrians, fire, emergency, ambulance response. Those things are all impacted. I'm a firefighter myself. I work down in the Bay Area, and I can say that the closest station already to Lincoln Crossing to my house is going to be responding from Joyner Parkway and First Street. That I don't know what the response is to my house. I don't know what the response goals are currently for the city of Lincoln. But to get to the south area of Village 7, you might as well send Thunder Valley Casino because they would probably have a quicker response time. And I don't know if they're ALS, but I'll echo also that not having paramedics as part of Lincoln's fire protection system and public safety system, that's a major concern of mine as well. Brain death and heart tissue death occurs within 9 minutes of somebody having a full arrest or a stroke. And with traffic and congestion and the fire station being so far away, we're really doing a disservice to our citizens by not having a fire station as part of this plan, which I hope it is. Maybe it is, and I'm just not aware, I'm not seeing it, but there should be a fire station there. If there's not a fire station there, I would say that Moore Road connection, like we talked about with the bike trail, if you connected Moore Road over 65, that response time, I bet would be at least cut in half, because that would be a quick response into that area, and that would potentially save having to build a fire station until maybe there's more residents. But I would just request that the commission consider delaying any action on Village 7 until more attention can be paid to the concerns that are being addressed. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to call Kristen Rose.
Yes, hi, just reiterating, yes, my name is Kristen Rose, and I've been a Lincoln resident for 10 years. And again, I live in very close proximity where they're talking about building the Village 7 project. And I do want to say that I am pleased with many aspects of the Village project, but I feel with more input from the community that live right next to this project, it can be even better and have an effect on good neighborly feelings. I have several concerns, just like that have already been reiterated, about the increase of traffic. When we talk about, 3,800 something residences, that will significantly impact the only way out currently right now on that east side being Ferrari Ranch. It already is a congestion nightmare. It's the only way to get onto 65 and all of Lincoln Crossing. We have, several areas all coming into one area to access the main highway 65. So I see huge safety concerns with, if we're going to build this project, not putting the infrastructure in first, being able to access other ways out of Village 7, because that can take years, as we know. I also am very concerned with the locality of the school and the commercial property being right off of that main road on Ferrari. I think when we look at this general development plan, we should really consider moving the locality of the commercial and the school for the safety of the children and for better business activity for the commercial. To me, it doesn't make sense to have the retail right next to the school, because as we all know, parents coming in and out, they'll take up the area of good access to those businesses, and it creates a congestion and an impact on traffic. I like what I see with the connectivity with the bike, the NEV, and the access with Morse. And we look at the map here, I know it's not up there, but having something up at Moore Road, moving maybe the high density up there, having access to Highway 65, creating Moore Road, where we could actually have another on and off ramp to 65 would create a huge, I think a better circulation pattern of traffic and flow, and that needs to be looked at before we move forward with this Village 7 project. And so I'm just asking at this time that we look at these things. The other questions I had is infrastructure going in before any building begins? Obviously, developers are already in place. That's been addressed. Is a school going to be built before the development can happen? Making sure that our current schools will not have to carry the load of over 3,000 new residents crowding our schools. I have children myself. We've all camped out at Lincoln Crossing. It's been a huge issue. If you bring in 3,000 new residences, where are all these people going to go to school if we don't build that school first? And again, questions about the low and low income housing, Section 8, or are these homes going to be sold at market value? So anyways, those are some of my concerns, and I'd like more time for the committee to think.
Thank you very much.
Next, I would like to call Jacob Kelly.
Hello, my name is Jacob Kelly. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to make a few comments. Don't have too much to add that my neighbors haven't already said. Again, I'm part of the existing neighborhood that's literally a block away from where this development's being proposed. Live right next to Neil and Kristen and Clark. And Neil was the one that kind of, brought this kind of development to my attention. I've been a Lincoln resident in Lincoln Crossing for the past 8.5 years. Like Clark has said, I love the neighborhood, love Lincoln Crossing. I've been raising my kids here, and it's been great. I echo the same concerns that have been stated by my neighbors as far as especially the traffic concerns, because yes, we already see it as Sorrento's developed out and the high density, or medium, I don't know if that's considered high density, medium density, right there close to off of Ferrari Ranch. But I mean, I've seen it in the 8.5 years since I've been there in Lincoln Crossing, just the increase in traffic flow as everything is developed out there and as more and more people have moved in, because that is the only access point to get to 65. And then adding all these new residences where they will only have that point to get to 65 is just going to be incredibly a huge increase in traffic in that area. And then just one thing that was brought up as far as the safety goes, and I wasn't even aware as far as the lack of paramedics at our fire stations. That's obviously a big concern as well. Addressing the safety issues with everything that's going in there. There's a lot of things like Kristen brought up that really look good in the plan with the connectivity, the trails and because of Lincoln Crossing being such a great community and with the trails that they've developed there, I think there's some good things that are in there. But as some of them have already pointed out, it has to maybe delay a decision, a vote, that we can kind of have some more input and more review of some of these things that are being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Hutchinson, I don't have any more cards, but maybe we can see if anybody else wants to speak.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
And I see no hands
No
raised in
hands on
Zoom.
Zoom.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now I will close public comments and bring it back to the commission for comments.
Sure.
Yes, Commissioner Gilbert.
Thank you. I'd like to share some thoughts. First of all, this was a very big number of pages, very big project. We get our agenda either on Thursday or Friday before the meeting. Unlike many of my colleagues, I'm retired, but many of my colleagues work, are raising families, have a lot of obligations beyond mine, so I'd like to suggest in the future, if there's any way that it can be worked out and still follow the law and be legal, that the majority of the package get to the commissioners earlier than Thursday so we can look at it. And if possible, if we can publish it for the public earlier, that would be very, very helpful. So that was my first point. This project's approved. What they're before us today is with some changes. So we're not here to approve the project tonight. I've seen this project as a city council person. I've looked at it many times as a planning commissioner. I'd like to share some comments that's been relayed to me over the last 45 years when I've served on public boards, commissions, and 2 different city councils. Density does not create problems with crime. A community that I lived in, the highest density project in that community has the lowest crime rate of anything else in the community. I lived in a single resident home, 2-story. The project I'm talking about was 3-story condominiums, and it has the lowest crime rate. There were a lot of things done that created that environment. So the kind of development doesn't always, are you a gated community? Are you an open community? And a lot of other things affect the crime rate. School location and schools is a state issue handed down through the local school board, which has rights that we cannot impose the city's will on. And the developer has to belly up dollars to get his project approved by us and satisfy the school board. And for those of you who have lived here for a while, school board sued a developer some years ago in this city and sued the city. And we were like this for quite a while until we resolved that. And they had powers invested in schools because they've lobbied better than the cities have at the state level and could control that element. So a lot of the things I've heard from people tonight, I think are very valid concerns. And if it was being built near me, I'd want to look at it and decide certain things. But quite frankly, the project's done. And if we were to go in now, and cities have done this, and tell the developer, we don't like this, which we approved before, we don't like this, etc. We're open for a very large legal case brought against the city, and case law says they're going to win. So that's not the way you can solve it. So I want everybody to be aware of all of those things. And I want you to also understand that we share your feelings about here's the perfect way to build something. But we either can't do it because nobody can afford to do it. Homes being built in Lincoln, unlike when I was on the city council, are self-sustaining financially now because the city council, in their wisdom, put a plan in place where there are contributions that will be made on an ongoing basis to maintain streets and parks and what have you. So instead of homes being a loss, and Lincoln was at a real loss financially, when we had our big boom and we're the fastest growing city in the United States of our size, to today, everyone that's built pays its own way. And it is the additional homes that we get even though things have changed and they don't build regional shopping centers the way they used to, and we shop on the internet. I shop about 15 times a month and it's all delivered to my home, so my wife doesn't have to go shopping. That's all changed things around, but we will get additional industrial and additional commercial development and additional retail development that will bring in income to the city in the future. It will just not be at the level that a Roseville saw when they were building out that city in an era where, they could build an auto mall and they could build a regional shopping center, et cetera, et cetera. So they captured that. But some of those elements that they have in Roseville are not bringing in the revenue that they did before. And our colleagues in those cities are having to find new ways to do things. And so the landscape changes, and it has changed and it may change back. But what we have as an obligation as a city and this planning commission is to follow the general plan, build out under the state law, build out housing. The state wants us to build all affordable housing. We're not building all of that, but we're meeting to the best of our ability. We're meeting what we can for the state's requirements. So I want to share all of that before my commissioners all got a chance to comment. I believe that the project works. And although, I'm sorry, sir, the public hearing's over. I'm sorry, the public hearing's over. This is my time. I did not interrupt you, sir. And so I want to hear from my colleagues on this, but I want you to all understand that we are also residents of the community and have families and have all of the same concerns that you all have. So with that, I'll give it back to the chair and we can go forward.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gilbert. We'll start with Commissioner Reedy. Any further comments?
Just a few. So I am also a Lincoln Crossing resident. My big concern is I don't have 10 years experience with the plan. And there's 30% missing from the two documents we're asking to approve. And it may be totally fine that those 30% are gone. We had a conversation earlier about recommended versus specific in terms of the planning details of what's in the specific plan, which is where some of those cuts are. And I honestly, personally need more time and want to see that red line, as ugly and long as that document might be, to understand really what's being taken out. And it may not matter and may be fine. I support the project. I commend the Lewis Corporation for their support of Lincoln and their support of the schools. It's really critical about that school being there so that people, when they do move in, have a place to go. So I'm supportive of all those things. I just don't have all the details about what is actually being changed, which is what we're asking for. So I agree, the project's moving forward. They're working on that bridge right now. If you go out there, you'll see it. I'm excited to see the community move forward. I just need personally more time to see what those changes are and understand them before I can vote to support making those changes. So
Thank you. Commissioner McKinney?
I just want to echo some of the things that Commissioner Gilbert mentioned, is that this project is approved and the amendments that are before us actually improve the project, in my opinion. They don't, if we don't act and we don't approve these amendments, what you're going to see is what's proposed today, what's existing today, unless the developer is willing to come back and reevaluate different amendments. But that's not what's before us tonight. And it's a big process to go back and do these amendments for the city as well as the developers. The commercial reduction, I had that same question earlier. I'm glad you brought that up. I actually thought it was probably better to reduce it because of the school. I don't know why the commercial is on the side of the school and not the other side, but it's reduced commercial around the elementary school, which I think is actually better. And I understand the issues associated with needing house rooftops in order to get commercial to come in. And I don't think more commercial in that area, on that side of town, is necessarily the best place for it, as was brought up, that we'd like to see it more around larger roadway systems where it's better accessible to the entire community, the entire city. So I just want to remind people that this is an approved project already, and I think the amendments are improving the situation as opposed to making things maybe worse for the community.
Thank you. Commissioner Eklund, any further comments?
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Commissioner Reedy with, I wish we just had more time, and to echo what Vice Chair Gilbert said, it's really challenging to digest something that we're not familiar with, that's this big and impactful in a weekend. And then it's also the weekend, so, you know, staff isn't necessarily accessible or available to help us fill in the gaps and reconcile our questions in a lot of time. So it really just feels pushed. I just want to make sure we get it right, because this is a forever decision. And as Commissioner Reedy said, I really like this project. I'm just still wanting a little bit of time to reconcile the impact that getting rid of the commercial is going to have for us fiscally, as well as knowing that we need to increase our funding for public safety. And something that I am very aware of on a regular basis is the fact that we do not have paramedics in ALS, as they mentioned, and how important that is for us to eventually get there, which does not have anything to do with this project. Just making a point that we pay for that and we increase our public safety with tax revenue. And that, in my understanding, is not enough just coming from homes. So I'm not saying that it's a deal breaker for me. I just want a little bit more time to understand the implications of eliminating that. And as far as the general plan, my understanding was that we're trying to follow the village concept, which isn't necessarily, you know, proposing like a commercial retail shopping center, but just the ability to have your needs within close distance and proximity to your home for quality of life, and less driving, less traffic, and not having to drive across town to go to a grocery store or whatnot, and understanding and having more time to see what the rest of the village is going to look like, and if it addresses those needs elsewhere in the development, if that makes any sense. Another thing that I just wanted, that went through my mind was, I know one of the criticisms to people that are opposing the annexation in Village 5, right? That's that we approve these communities and villages, and then, you know, with that, again, this is not the same thing. There's, you know, 3 million potential square feet of commercial. The criticisms for the opposition is that you approve and then the commercial is then reduced, and it's not what you originally thought you were approving for your community. I don't think that that's what this is. I just want to understand that better, and make sure that that doesn't happen with future developments. So I just need a little more time. Thank
you. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all the comments that were shared and comments from my fellow commissioners. I'm feeling similar. I would like to see what more of the changes were. This is a lot to digest. Obviously, we weren't around when it came through, I guess, 2010, to understand. And I do appreciate that it's approved moving forward, you know, it's going to be, you know, it needs to move forward. I think the question is, well, before us tonight, is there some proposed changes? So that's what we're looking at. And so that's the part I'm not comfortable with. And obviously there's some concerns, you know, with some of the, you know, citizens that live close to there, it's going to impact, you know, that some of these changes are going to have. So right now, and I'm not going to, you know, rehash all of them that have been brought up in some of my concerns, but I think at the moment now, I'm not able to support the proposed changes.
Thank you. Commissioner Jerry Johnson, any further comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Well, this is interesting. I concur with Commissioner McKinney. I also concur with Vice Chair Gilbert. I've lived in Lincoln for 25 years. When I moved to Lincoln, there were 7,000 people living here, and I thought I was moving to the country. Well, you all know what has happened in 25 years. I understand growth. A city has to change, it has to grow, or it slides back. It doesn't stay the same. I appreciate all of your comments, and I'm grateful for all of them. I understand where you're coming from. Public safety is always an issue, but as my colleagues McKinney and Gilbert both said, this project has been approved. What is before us tonight is whether or not we are able to approve the conceptual amendments to the project. It has nothing to do with stopping the project. The project is going forward, as we know. And so I'm going to ask you whether or not I have a motion to approve this amendment.
I have
Or-
one question I'd
Yes.
like to ask,
Mhm.
now that I've heard some of my colleagues
Mhm.
say. Have this before us, and it was in the same condition that it was 2 months ago. Would you vote in favor of it, those of you that are questioning it tonight and feel you need more information? This project was,
Before the amendment.
this project was approved previously.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you be of the mind this evening, if that project was before you, to reject it or to endorse it?
I would endorse it.
So, do you feel that way?
I apologize, but I have to take issue with the premise of the question, which
Sure.
is assuming that I had been able to read the 450 pages. And so my issue is I don't want to actually say no. I want to table it to April.
I got you.
Okay.
And let me ask you the same question.
The same, yeah, I don't think it's
To
relevant
table it?
because I wasn't around when it was all discussed and brought up, so my decision may have been different at that point.
That's fair.
Can I ask a question? I thought it was pretty clearly laid out what the amendments are. And so I'm wondering where, you know, do we need to have a little bit additional discussion to try and deal with this tonight as opposed to move it, you know, to another meeting? What is the questions about the changes? You know, the table that was presented clearly identified where density changes were. You know, they reduced the larger village country estates. They've added some more low density. They've reduced high density. And we've reduced the commercial, right? And we've changed the parks. We've consolidated parks and increased the open space. That's essentially the changes and amendments to this project, if I've captured them entirely. And I guess I'll look to Michaela and say, did I miss anything?
The only other major changes that came up were some modifications to the entitlement processes and the implementation at the end of the document. a couple changes as to how minor revisions are processed, whether they're done internally, what qualifies as a minor revision
Those are
or.
administrative sort of changes.
Correct, correct.
But when it comes to the land use plan itself,
Yeah.
the traffic, the road layouts,
Correct.
those
Nothing's
are,
changed.
those have not changed.
Nope, the
So-
only map aspects that have changed are the land use
parks.
designations, not the roadways, not the circulation pattern, nothing of that sort has changed.
Right. So I guess that's my question to my fellow commissioners who are requesting more time is, are there some specific elements that, where is it you're looking to have more time? Because to me, I thought it was very, very clearly laid out where the amendments were.
I agree.
I'm happy to. I'll take a first go.
Great.
Yeah. So, top line in I do have some questions about the impact of it on the top line things. My issue is I don't know what I don't know, and there's 130 pages that were removed from the two documents. And I have not had the time to understand what's in there. And so I'm being asked to approve the removal or changes of 450 pages without having had the opportunity to digest it and understand what's in there. And I just want time before I say yes or no to those changes to make sure that I understand them. And I mean, the original plan was in 2010 and it's 2024. I honestly I'm unclear why we would have to get this in Friday afternoon and decide by Wednesday evening, when there was, 14 years in between, if 1 month is really going to make that big of a difference to give the people who want to read or ask additional following questions the time to do that, and then come back and be like, yep, I got my questions answered, and I appreciate that the commission gave me the time to do that. And so that's really where I'm coming from, is I don't know. Yeah, and I want to know before I, agree to something that's going to last 3 times my lifetime. Because it's never going to change once we say yes. And I just want to be sure.
I understand your comments. And I think at this particular point, it would be wise for us to table this until next month. As much as I agree with Commissioner Gilbert and Commissioner McKinney, we have several members of our commission who, if I'm correct in understanding you want more time. And so.
Well, there's,
there's-
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
there are 2 options. We can, one option, we can make a motion, but 2 options on a motion. We can make a motion to table, or we can vote on it and then see, because there are 7 commissioners.
True.
And, if 4 decide that they don't want to support it, then we basically will give direction to staff, which will probably be kind of what you said and what you folks have said. And if 4 people want it, then it's the city's approved it. It doesn't have to have the support of 7 commissioners.
Then I will entertain a motion.
Well, my concern is that what if it goes the opposite and then we kill the deal and, it's just, I don't want to regress. I just think that we just want.
So I'm going to move
I
the
don't think
table
that-
to April.
I don't think anyone wants to kill the deal at all. I think that's an issue. So
And
you're-
wouldn't we set a precedence for future projects? I mean, we're looking at this one, but couldn't we say that for everything we vote on going forward? Well, we don't like the outcome, so we're gonna bring it back.
So I'm making a motion to table till April.
Can I ask the developer, can we ask the developer if there is a concern with tabling it from their perspective, and so we understand that?
I appreciate the discussion and all of the comments. It's important to note that from my perspective and the Lewis family, unanimous decisions are incredibly valuable and important, and that's where we like to go. Public comments from neighbors, we take very seriously. The only response I will give to a lot of that is, when it comes to traffic, is that there was a traffic study prepared for the overall project that accounted for all of Lincoln Crossing, all of our development, all of the specific plan, all of Sorrento. And that informed the width of Ferrari any other transportation improvements associated with the project. So I just wanted to answer that. With regards to public safety, every project these days that comes forward in the city of Lincoln since 2018 is required to annex into a community facilities district. There's two of them, one that funds park and open space maintenance and landscape maintenance. That is at a higher level than what the city had in place before with landscaping and lighting assessment districts, because the city couldn't keep up with the costs. Those CFDs allow for cost increases over time, forever, really, perpetuity. There is another CFD for public safety. So the city does an analysis to determine what the public safety needs are for our impacts to the community. How many policemen, how many firemen that are needed, how library services, all of the above. And they develop what that CFD special tax rate will be, and that's applicable to all of the property owners within our specific plan. So there is an extra level of funding beyond what exists today, and that's been going on since 2018. So it's getting better. We can't solve the pains from the past.
Yeah.
We understand that, but we, as one of the forward-thinking developers in 2018, pushed the entire industry into the equation with the city. Get on board or nothing will happen. Because you have to keep the public safety component happy. So I just wanted to answer that. With respect to the comments that on what's been deleted. So there was an incredible amount of specificity for what conceptual drawings with respect to what a particular neighborhood would look like within a phase. So whenever a change would need to be made, we would have to go through the exhausting, painstaking process to modify all of those neighborhood exhibits that are really conceptual to make sure that whatever we were approving or amending was consistent with the exhibits. There really wasn't an objection from anyone at the city, planning commissioners, or city council members for the changes that we would make to adapt to market conditions. It was exhausting. We'd have to change that number of pages that were deleted, all of those exhibits across the board throughout the entire specific plan document and general development plan document. What was deleted wasn't removing any theming, any desirability about what what the neighborhoods should be, maintaining diversity with multiple product types within a phase. That exists. That's what we like. So it wasn't deleted, and I fondly appreciate the fact that you want to see it, the red line component. As Michaela mentioned, it's pretty thick. It's an encyclopedia, but I appreciate the concern and the request. For retail, it's just the big issue with the retail is the trade area. And the trade area for this site is very small, okay? Because of its proximity or lack of proximity to the major transportation corridor. That's why you see commercial all along highways and major corridors. I live in Roseville. I can tell you that no development happened, no commercial development, no retail development happened, I will say, west of Foothills until there was a significant demand for a grocery store. And then one opened, more growth happened, and another opened. But Blue Oaks Boulevard has turned into an 8-lane expressway. It is a mini freeway. And so that's what the retailers are looking for. So this is not that. This is really not what I think a neighborhood wants in a lot of instances. Village 5 has its central core that crosses over 65. That's a prime place to put retail and commercial. Same thing with 12 Bridges. It crosses over a major transportation corridor. That's why all that retail is there.
That makes
So
sense.
I know that doesn't answer, I'm not trying to make everybody feel better. I'm just here to respond to the comments and the concerns. They're all genuine. This isn't new. We hear this everywhere of the concerns. All of them, these aren't new. Somebody pulled something out of the sky we didn't think of. And we believe in all of the interaction. We want that to happen. So I hope that answered the question. I mean, I appreciate the opportunity to come up.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, I don't think so. Okay, we have a motion. Excuse me, do we have a second? We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Then the motion was to table it
The table?
to April. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion to table and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
No.
Commissioner McKinney,
No?
Vice Chair Gilbert,
No.
and Chair Hutchison.
No. All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the project, notwithstanding the fact that the vote may not be 7-0, as the applicant, I guess, in the past has always gotten in this city. But I do believe that the project can stand on its own 2 feet. There were some elements that changed, but they're not significant, number one. And number two, no matter how long we may debate this and ask questions, that basic part of the project is not going to change. We don't have the power to change it. And it's been endorsed by the city council, who appointed us as planning commissioners. And so if we were, for any reason, not to go forward with this, as has happened in the past, where the planning commission has gone against the will of the city council, it's gone back up to the city council, and they have overridden the decision of the planning commission. So I just wanted to share that, and I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Yes?
I just want to clarify, because we have Commissioner Jerry Johnson on Zoom, we need to do these resolutions one by one. So what you're motioning is for Resolution 2024-06?
Correct.
Sure.
I want to just make that clarification. Thank you so
Very good
much.
question. You're right.
Okay, so roll call, Vice Chair Gilbert
Yes on 6.
and Commissioner McKinney,
Yes?
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Reedy,
Abstain.
and Chair Hutchison.
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes 4-2 and 1 abstention. I will entertain a motion now under resolution number 202407,
Excuse me,
recommending.
not to interrupt, the count was 511.
Was it 511?
Yeah.
501.
Thank you. Recommending city council approval of the Village 7 specific plan amendment.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes?
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Reedy,
Abstain.
and Chair Hutchison.
Yes, count is 5, 1, and 1. Next, I will entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 202408, recommending city council approval of the Village 7 General Development Plan Amendment.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes?
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Reedy,
Abstain.
Thank you.
Chair Hutchison.
Yes, thank you. And the vote is 5, 1, and 1. All right. Our next item on the agenda is the Deer Crossing time extension.
Like deja vu. I'm back.
Thank you, Michaela.
Of course. Thank you for your guys' time tonight. All right, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Michaela Noble, Assistant Planner with the Community Development Department. The project we have before you is a one-year time extension request for the approved Deer Crossing Retail Center project. In September 2022, the Planning Commission approved the Deer Crossing project, which included a specific development plan and development permit for the construction of a 24,000 square foot commercial retail center with 4 commercial buildings at the southwest corner of McBean Park Drive and Oak Tree Lane. Following the commission approval, an appeal was filed during the 10-day appeal period. In February 2023, a public hearing was held where City Council denied the appeal and upheld the commission's approval. After the initial project's approval, the property ownership changed. In January 2024, the new property owner submitted a time extension request for the Deer Crossing project. This time extension application was submitted a month prior to the original entitlement's expiration. According to the Lincoln Municipal Code, the Planning Commission may grant a one-year extension of time, provided that the applicant makes an application prior to the entitlement's expiration. Approval of this extension would extend the expiration of this entitlement to March 20th, 2025. So here we have the project site, which is outlined in red. It's located at the southwest corner of McBean Park Drive and Oak Tree Lane. The approved site plan illustrates the proposed 24,000 square foot retail shopping center with 4 commercial buildings. And finally, here are the approved elevations for the approved Deer Crossing project. For findings, the Lincoln Municipal Code allows for time extensions of design review applications and grants the authority to the Planning Commission to either approve or deny a one-year extension of time. This time extension will provide the new owner the necessary time to get acquainted with the project and explore a project revision that meets their development goals and maintains consistency with city standards. Staff recommends the Planning Commission determine that the project complies with CEQA guidelines section 15164 and adopt a resolution to approve the one-year time extension for the approved Deer Crossing project to March 20th, 2025. That's all for my presentation. I just wanted to add that we've received 1 public comment on this project. It was a question about the pedestrian and bike access to the property. Other than that, we have no other comments, and the applicant is here tonight if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for staff? Yes. Eric Johnson first.
Sorry. Just in regards to that one public comment, I'm just curious what was in that public comment.
Yeah, so it was a phone call, quick conversation of, wanting to know what the access points are with this project. It is a part of the 12 Bridges General Development Plan. However, it's, located essentially right next to Village 1. So with McBean Park Drive, there will be bike lanes added to that road if they're not already added, as well as Oak Tree Lane. So there will be, safe access for, pedestrians and bikes, as a sidewalk will be there as well.
Thank you. I heard Commissioner Jerry Johnson with a comment.
Question, really. I'm wondering what the objection to the project was the first time and there was appealed to council?
Yeah, so with the original approval, there was some concerns. Right next door, there is a church which is occupied by a school at the moment. They were concerned about the proximity of the commercial center to the church. During that time, the Planning Commission meeting, there was discussion of building an 8-foot solid wall to protect, any visibility issues from the school and commercial and kind of keep those quite separate. And at that time, an appeal was filed with those concerns in mind, as well as some CEQA issues. They didn't think that it was adequately analyzed at that time. And in the end, City Council upheld the approval, and it's, we're here before you today.
All right. I see that Christian is on on the line. Is it possible I could ask a question to him?
Yes, sir.
Christian, if this project was coming for us for the first time tonight, would you recommend approval? Or would you seek some changes to it?
Yeah, again, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure that's an appropriate question because we have gone through all the, the process, the appeal process, and we are just looking at a continuation of a project CUP, and with all the talk of commercial, this is a commercial project. So, and I do believe, so we did come, that said, to get to your question,
It's a hypothetical question.
yeah, we conditioned it with that wall, somewhat, that is what the appellants, they stated that they wanted that wall. Staff was somewhat hesitant to support such a large wall. We didn't think it was super necessary to do that, but we did ultimately condition it with that wall in place. So with that, we found there to be adequate separation from that use there. So yes, we supported that original project with the condition. Yeah.
Chair, this is Christine Mollenkopf. I would just caution the commission on hypothetical questions that call for speculation as to what someone might have done even months, years ago. It's just not appropriate in this setting.
Thank you. I understand that. Commissioner Gilbert, do you have any other comments or questions?
Our brilliant city attorney
Took care of
has
that.
addressed what I was going to
Perfect.
talk about back at that this was approved in 98 before there was a school there.
Yes, correct.
And then the school was built and the school didn't want to take away the rights that had been granted to the property owner. So, but that's enough.
Do any of my colleagues have any other questions before I open it up for public comments? Yes.
No, just a follow-up question. I just want to clarify. I know that was one of the original concerns, because right next to that property line of the church, there is a playground for kids. And I know the original design just had the 3-foot chain link fence right there. So I think that was a big concern. So I just want to clarify, so was that rectified? So there's a different fence there now, or is that still?
No, that 8-foot fence, wall, it's not a fence, it's a wall, will still be there on that project. Like
It is
Christian
there.
said, it is conditioned as part of the project. and-
Condition of
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
approval.
condition of the.
So that was added?
Yes,
Condition of
yes, with the
approval.
original
We did that.
It was a
approval.
condition of the approval.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, and with the time extension, all conditions of approval still apply from the
Okay.
original entitlement.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, the only thing is, do we give them another year?
Yeah, and they're entitled to that, as I understand that. All right, hearing no other comments or questions from my colleagues, I will now open the public hearing. Citizens wishing to speak on this item may request to speak by raising your hand. When requested to do so, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Secretary, do we have any hands raised or anyone in chambers? How about that?
Muscles.
I,
How about that?
I'm awake
She
now.
didn't hear it last night.
I did not receive any comment cards. I do not see any hands raised here in the room, and there are no hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you. With that, I will close public comments. And do I have a motion?
If I won't get hammered, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the extension.
Do I have a second? I believe that we have
Okay.
three resolutions, and because, don't we? I'm looking,
2.
2009.
That's it.
Oh, all right, very good. We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I second.
And a second. Roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Yes?
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
and Chair Hutchison.
Yes. Motion passed 7-0. Let's see, we have been through general business and the workshop. Do we have any commissioner comments? I think we've been through it. We've been through.
Yeah, I have,
All right.
I noted that we had TV out. And we were having some problems with whatever was going on. And I'd like to see if we could do our best job on solving those IT problems. I noticed people sitting on this side of the room really having a problem looking at this TV as an angle. We're fortunate. We have three, and when one of the three is out, we're still in good shape. So I think it's very important to have, whether we got to test them or whatever. And then I'd like to see us be a little more smooth from transition from one person to the other. I don't know if it's a training or a technology issue, but I'd like to see us address that.
Chairman Gilbert, I appreciate your comment.
Vice Chairman.
Vice Chair, sorry, Vice Chairman Gilbert, I gotta get used to it. It's
We
just
don't
had
want
the
to,
switch.
we don't want to
I-
take away her thunder.
I almost said Chair Lyons, and Bill's no longer here. Vice Chairman Gilbert, I do appreciate your comment. Actually, I did notice that TV out, and I did go to the back room of IT. We do apologize that that is not working. And with regard to the timer, I do want to commend IT staff to give me the heads up that the timer was not working on the screen, and that's why I made that announcement that I will have 2 timers here at my desk. Yes, Roman, if we can just pass that along to the IT department to get that rectified.
Thank you. Do I have any other comments from my colleagues? And
I would have one if you don't mind.
thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
Yes, I was going to ask you,
Oh.
Commissioner Johnson.
What time is it where you are, Jerry?
It is 5 minutes to 11.
Oh, you're staying up late.
Okay, and your comment,
I
Commissioner.
wanted to thank the commission for putting up with my absence in, if not in spirit, in location. I think you put up with a lot. And a special thanks to Jeannie for making it possible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, a motion to adjourn,
Second.
seconded, we're adjourned.